Okay, good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Hi.
Good evening.
I'd like to call the meeting to order, please. Could we please say the pledge to the flag? I pledge
I pledge
allegiance
allegiance
to the flag of the
of
United States of America and to the
and to the
republic
republic
for which
for
it
which it
stands,
stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under God,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty
liberty
and
and justice for all.
Please take a moment of silence for personal
I pledge
silence,
allegiance
please.
to the
Thoughts.
flag
Of the
of
United States
of America.
and to the republic. Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Rashka,
Here.
Schaefer,
Here.
Mrs. Karapolsky,
Here.
Mrs. Dubart,
Present.
Wilson,
Here.
Mr. Wagon's not here. Okay.
So I don't have, Marianne, I don't have on here that we're accepting the meeting minutes from last meeting on my agenda.
No, because it's a budget meeting. So,
Oh, that's right. Okay.
yeah.
Okay, so we're going right into superintendent's report tonight. Mrs. Morris?
You're
You're
muted,
on,
Mary.
Can you, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Our first
Thanks,
order
Mary.
of business is a retirement of one of our CSEA employees. And this is pursuant to a resignation agreement as presented between the employee 104 and the district. And I would like your approval of that. Do we need an approval, correct?
Yes.
Yes, we do. Could I have a motion, please, on the retirement for this employee?
I'll make the
I'll make
motion,
the
Heather
motion.
Dubard.
And a second, please?
Was that Mrs. Dubart?
Yes.
Yes, I have a motion by Mrs. Dubart and a second by Ms.
I'll second.
Karpowski. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. Okay,
Okay, in the second order of business, our budget transfers, and your approval is recommended for the attached budget transfers.
could I please have a motion for the budget transfers?
I'll make a motion, Thomas Raska.
I'll
And I need
second Heather Dubard.
I have a motion by Mr. Raska, second by Mrs. Dubart. All in favor, please?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried.
Okay, before we move into our work session, I'm going to share my screen. I thought we could use some fun and positive news. And it just came out, the rendering of the front of the new Union East edition.
Oh,
Oh,
Sweet.
very nice.
Oh, my
that
gosh.
looks so amazing.
Wow.
That looks great.
Wow.
I thought you would like it, so I thought I should.
Wow.
Very nice.
That's
Really
beautiful.
nice.
Very nice.
Very nice. Thank you.
With that, I will turn our discussion over to Kate for the budget work session.
Thank you. Good evening, Caitlin.
Hello, hi everyone. I apologize. I tried to start my video here so you could see me. It's nice to see all of you.
Thanks, you too.
I will go ahead and share my screen. Okay, and can everyone see the PowerPoint presentation?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes?
Great.
Yes.
Well, started then. So this is technically our second budget work session for the 2021 budget process. Well, I'll back us up just a little bit because it has been a little while since we last spoke. The first half of our budget season really was progressing normally, and the last we spoke was in early March. And at that time, we had an approximately $500,000 budget deficit that we were going to come back together and talk about how to bridge that gap. And then just about a week after that meeting, the COVID-19 situation happened, and there's been significant changes to our budget picture since then. So tonight, my purpose here is to update you on those changes that have happened to our budget since that first work session, and to present to you where we are as of today and what we're doing going forward. So we had changes to our budget over the last 2 months. We are targeting adoption next week, and we will have the vote in June. One of the most significant changes to our budget since the last time we talked was in state aid decreases. So given the financial health of New York State and the economic downturn of the state, we've seen decreases in what we can expect from state aid. Foundation aid slightly decreasing, excess cost aid, instructionals materials aid, charter aid, building aid, all decreasing slightly. The biggest adjustment downward is in our transportation aid. And we expect this to go down mostly because of the lack of transportation that we're providing right now. And since that's an expense-based aid, not having the expense this year means we won't get the aid on it next year. We do anticipate seeing a slight increase in our BOCES aid number, but not enough to really offset those decreases. The last thing in state aid that I'd like to draw your attention to is the pandemic adjustment and the education stabilization fund money. So as part of one of the stimulus bills passed by Congress, an education stabilization fund was created, and school districts across the country are getting education or funds for education. In New York State, the way that's going to look is it's going to run through New York State first, and we apply for it basically as a district to get access to that education stabilization fund. We were hoping this would be an increase to our state aid, but the way the state is actually using this money is they're going to pull out an amount equal to that from our state aid runs. So instead of getting that $880,000 in addition to our state aid, it's really just replacing $880,000 we're not getting in state aid. So we are no better off having that education stabilization fund. In total, our state aid decrease, we're projecting approximately $73,000 less in state aid in 2021 than we budgeted for in this 1920 school year. Our property tax picture doesn't change. We are still anticipating a property tax levy limit of $25,753,775. That represents approximately $600,000 increase from the 1920 year to the 2021 year. What is important to note is that the town of Cheektowaga will no longer be pursuing that 100% equalization rate. So at the beginning of March, when we were just starting our budget discussions in the first work session, we had talked about that the town of Cheektowaga was changing the equalization on properties so that properties would be valued higher than they were in the previous year. That project has been delayed a year. The town will not be increasing property values to 100%. They will instead be using the 83%, which is closer to the 85% that was used in this 1920 year. So you won't see that significant change in rate that we had talked about back in early March. So we anticipate the tax rate per thousand being $18.53, which is a 2.5% increase or 45 cents. If we look at our total revenue picture all together now, oh, I'm sorry, was there a question? No, okay. If we look at our total revenue picture now all together, we start with our 1920 budget of $45 million. We'll add into that the total tax levy increase. We anticipate the $600,000. Our state aid, as I previously mentioned, is decreasing $73,000. We are also expecting other local revenue to decrease. This other local revenue number is Erie County sales tax. So the numbers are not yet in, but the Erie County Comptroller is estimating large losses in sales tax revenue given the economic inactivity that we have as of late. So we are estimating a hit to our sales tax revenue. To offset some of these decreases, we, as the district, is using more in fund balance next year to fund our budget than we had in the previous year. So our net revenue increase is approximately $1.3 million, which puts our 2021 preliminary, or excuse me, that shouldn't be say preliminary. It puts our 2021 budget at approximately $47 million, which represents a 3% increase from this year. We'll now move on to the expense side of the budget. So as we talked about previously in the beginning of March, these numbers are almost the same as what I presented previously, with the exception of contract transportation. We are anticipating potential increases in our transportation expenditure next year, but the rest of these numbers are consistent with what we've talked about previously: employee salaries and benefits increasing. The tax refunds that we are obligated to pay next year as the result of a legal settlement with a commercial property in our district. We anticipate some other contractual increases across the board and a small amount in equipment. The decreases in our budget, these first three categories, utilities, debt service, and BOCEs, are decreases that occurred when we just look at our activity from one year to the next. And then you'll see the starred item, I've listed the comprehensive budget review and reductions. So given the changes in the revenue picture and that our current period revenue isn't what we had hoped it would be, we evaluated across the board all general fund expenditures and have come up with approximately $1.9 million in reductions to the budget. This includes salaries, benefits, contractual services, and supplies and materials. This gives us a total anticipated reduction of just about $2 million. Now, if we take a look at the expense side of the budget, the same starting $45 million, we have approximately $3.4 million in increases, reductions of just about $2 million, which gives us our 2021 budget number of $47 million, which is the same increase on the revenue side, and now we have a balanced budget. The next steps are budget adoption next Tuesday. The following Tuesday is the hearing, and then the public vote will be Tuesday, June 9th. Are there any questions for me? And I'll turn it back over to you, Mary. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Caitlin.
If there are no other questions, we can adjourn and move into executive session to discuss personnel.
I'm sorry, I was writing. I was trying to keep up with it. Thank you, Caitlin. You did a great job. I just want to ask you, could you give me the number for the equipment? Because I got to other contractual for the increase, but when you went to equipment and you went into the next page, I missed what the amount of money was there.
Sure, it was $35,000.
35,000. Okay. So we basically have to apply for that.
Yeah, that's the guidance that's coming from the state, that we will have to use the application portal where we record our financials every year, and there'll be some kind of file that we have to complete to apply to be paid that money.
Okay.
That Education Stabilization Fund.
All right, thanks. Does anybody have any questions for Caitlin? Thanks for all the hard work. I know
No.
you do.
Sure.
Yeah,
appreciate
thank you,
it.
Caitlin.
Nobody? Okay.
Yeah, definitely a good job considering everything
Yeah,
that
right.
is going on. Thank
I
you.
know.
Thanks for having me.
I'd like to make a motion to move into executive session, please.
I'll make the motion, Heather Dubard.
Oh, sorry, executive session. I don't know what I'm thinking here. To discuss the employment of a particular person.
Correct.
I have a motion
I'll
by
make
Mrs. Jabard and a second by Mrs. Wilson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, carried. Thank you, everybody.
After
Mr.
adjourn
Renfro.
the meeting.
Oh,
I'll make
I
the
make a-
motion.
I'll
Are we on?
second the motion, to end the meeting.
Yes.
Tom Raska.
Motion by Renee Wilson, second by Tom Raska. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any